interpreter told us that the little boy told him that the Taliban put a bomb in the road. So here I'm in Afghanistan, different than Iraq, different war. And lo and behold, I was the one to be standing next to the bomb that they put in the road. It was 12 9-volt batteries, a cell phone strapped on top of it. Um, just literally my life flashed before my eyes. And it crazy.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to Harry Man Talks. I'm your host, Harry Man. Today we have a special guest. I've known this guy for about 4 or 5 years. Met him in college. He's an author, writes poetry. He's a Marine veteran, Marine Corps. Is that right?
Yep.
He has his own podcast, The Purpose Pod. He has his own clothing line. The guy's doing a lot. Welcome, Alan Levi Simmons. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to, the way I wanted to start this is, I never really sat down with you. And I mean, we've sat, like, we met through a mutual friend, Ali,
Right.
one of my best friends. But I never really asked you, like, what was your childhood like, how you were raised, like your high school years, like, if you want
Yeah.
to get into that a little bit.
Oh, definitely. That'd be a good little, good little thing to go over. It's crazy meeting people, like you come in the middle of their life, in a sense, like while they're going through an experience, like you have a video on your YouTube and you talk about how you stepped away, and how you went and you kind of like searched and thought within, right? You evaluated, why you were doing your YouTube channel, and you had to really seek, like, you were in a different place when I met you, so you weren't doing that, right? So it's amazing to meet people when they're in different moments in their lives, right? And then to come onto the other side and to see them, in the future. Let's just say that, we're here in the future having this conversation. So it's good to see your growth, bro. I was always interested in you because, of your rap, and your love for music and stuff. So, but yeah, so my childhood, just wanted to say that because I appreciate you for having me here. But but yeah, so I grew up in Somerville, South Carolina. It's a town near Charleston, South Carolina, down in the Low Country, we call it. I grew up with my dad mainly. My mom and my dad split when I was a little taller, I believe. I can't even remember what age I was. But I remember how it went down. It was that kind of thing. But I don't remember how old I was. I was probably like 3 or 4. But when they split, my dad raised me, and my grandmother and my grandfather, were there. I grew up very old school, dirt road, going through the pathways, eating honeysuckles and berries, and um, just that kind of like outside life, right? Like, we're out on a trampoline, we're playing dodgeball, hopscotch, right? Tag, hide and seek. Those childhood days. That's kind of how my childhood was. I did have this traumatic experience as a kid. I was like 10 years old and I was walking across the street to the store. And I was probably like 11 or 12 actually. And my friend, he was about 10 years old. But we were walking across the street, taking our bikes across the street to the dollar store. And I watched my friend get hit by a car and die right in front of my eyes as a 10-year-old or 12-year-old. So, I went from the kid outside playing around to the kid that had this traumatic experience that watched his friend take his last breath as a kid. And then fast forward, I played football, I ran track. I played football most of my life until after high school, really. Played basketball, ran hurdles and track, loved to dance. Everybody knew me in high school. Throughout my whole life, actually, everywhere I've been, Okinawa, overseas, like anywhere, people know me as the dancing dude. Like I dance everywhere. Um, so yeah, did all of that, deployed, Iraq, Afghanistan after I went in the military. And I'll tell you a funny story about why I joined the military when you ask me, why did I join the military? But yeah, so that's just a little background about, where I come from.
So after high school, did you go to college or was it military?
It was military the day after.
So what, yeah, I guess I was gonna ask you what made you choose the military, and my
Yeah.
second question is what was that boot camp like? Because I know the Marine boot camp is insane.
It is. Yeah, man. So, being a high school kid, I was dating this one girl and we were off and on. And my senior year, she, gets pregnant
Mm.
and, tells me that I'm the dad, and so we had to talk to my parents. I'm like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life really at that point in time. I just knew I had to go to college. I knew that, oh, there's a program for black guys to be teachers. There's like some program called Call Me Mister that they were doing for African American men. So I was going to go to school for elementary education at that time. And, when she told me that she was pregnant, my dad said, well, what the hell are you going to do? So my buddies came to me the following days and they told me that they were joining the Marines. And I was like, oh nah, bro. Like I'm not nah, I'm good. Like I was never really patriotic. Here I am with American flag in my room. But I was never really patriotic as a dude growing up in the South because of the racism that I grew up with, and the way I saw how the South really was, in my days. I was born in 88, you know what I mean? I'm 34, so it wasn't like it was like 1655, 1776. This is like 1995, 98. I grew up in that era to where you see that kind of racism. So I was never really patriotic. But when they brought that opportunity to me, I was like, this is my best bet. I could go in with my boys and I get to provide for this kid. I get to boot camp and I get a letter in the mail a couple of weeks into it. Marine Corps boot camp's 3 months of hell. Um, well, the last week is a little pleasurable, I guess, but 3 months of hell. Very tough. I wanted to quit a lot. I wanted to give up. I wanted to call my parents and tell them to come pick me up, which I did, and they did not. Because that was new to me. I wasn't used to people. I was used to football coaches, track coaches, right? I wasn't used to this man in my face, spitting in my face while he's talking, like grabbing my shirt, knocking me in my chin, throwing me against the wall. Like it's like the mental abuse, the physical, torture, I would say, of being a regular human being and being put in this environment is different,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I got through it, obviously, right? But while I was in boot camp, I got a letter in the mail from a homeboy who told me that the dude that was the dad called him crying about the situation because I was in boot camp. And he was the dad, and everybody knew, or him and the girl knew that he was the dad. So, crazy situation made me really upset. I was very angry, right? But it was the story that created the person I am today.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Like you never know
Yeah,
where it's gonna take you, and the route God's taking you on.
you
Um,
don't.
for real. So once you leave boot camp, you're in the military. Like
Hmm.
so you went to Afghanistan, Iraq. Like,
Hmm.
oh, how long were you deployed, and like, what were those experiences like?
Man, so my first duty station, I went to Okinawa, Japan after all my training. Great experience. And then from there, after I got meritoriously promoted to corporal, they needed a corporal to go out to Iraq and Baghdad. And I was like, oh man, it was either me or my boy Vonvale. And he had just got married. And I was like, I'm single, no kids, I'll go, I guess, right? Um, so I get over to Baghdad and it's, hot, of course, right? But the war was different out there because they were like doing suicide bombing and stuff like that. So it was a different environment. It's definitely coming from like never had been to war before to like being over. I was in Baghdad. It was in a green zone, but I was in control of um, I would say packs leaving, like people leaving and people coming in. I would a radio operator, and then I would also give briefs to the majors and the generals about significant events and attacks, from the Taliban and stuff. And so it was a pretty cool experience as an electrician by trade in the Marine Corps to be on this, uh, let's call it secretive job role that I was working in. So yeah, Baghdad was crazy just because people were blowing themselves up, taking vehicles, doing all of that, and then came Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a totally different war. They're not strapping bombs on them. They're putting IEDs in the road. They're using bottles. They're using plywoods with barbed wires and propane tanks. And that's kind of where my story from Afghanistan began with a propane tank, because I came across an IED while on foot patrol. I was on patrol, and this kid came outside and he was yelling. I believe the language that they spoke in Marja, Afghanistan, is Dari, but he was speaking Dari to an interpreter. Told us that the little boy told him that the Taliban put a bomb in the road. So here I'm in Afghanistan, different than Iraq, different war. And lo and behold, I was the one to be standing next to the bomb that they put in the road. It was 12 9-volt batteries, a cell phone strapped on top of it. Um, just literally my life flashed before my eyes. And the crazy part is, I know you're a man of faith. Uh, I heard a voice speak to me when I was standing in the intersection by the bomb. The voice told me to look by my foot, and I looked down and there's a haystack, and the voice told me to lift up the haystack, like literally, like just told me. And I'll say that voice was right. And then I got blown up in an RPG blast right after that. We were in a firefight with the Taliban. We was in a gunfight with the Taliban pretty much. They were shooting AK-47 rounds just flying everywhere. And then they shot an RPG which landed a few feet in front of me and pushed me back and knocked me unconscious for a little bit. And fast forward from that real quick is that I was suicidal after wrestling with PTSD and anxiety after all of that. And that same voice from Afghanistan spoke to me when I had the gun in my mouth in Norfolk, Virginia, years later. So
This is like years after you're out of the military.
yeah, I got out in 2011. That happened in like 2013.
Mm. Yeah, I think I heard you talk about this in your poetry spoken,
Yeah.
and that's tough. So you said it was a voice that told you not to kill yourself.
Yeah, bro. It was literally like the voice of God, I would say, said, "Who are you to take your own life when I brought you from the land of your enemy?" Like literally, like those words, as if somebody like you're sitting here talking to me. I have bad memory. Like every time God is speaking to me, I've remembered the words, right? Because they hit different. They're more to the spirit man versus the flesh, right? So yeah, like that voice saved my life, bro. Like I cried on the floor, fell asleep crying with the gun by my side. So, but yeah,
Now that's dope. That I feel I haven't really listened to your podcast, but I know you really promote men's mental health and mental health in general.
yeah,
That's big
yeah,
because I don't want to talk down on women's mental health, but I feel like men go through a lot. You
yeah,
went through like insane amounts because you're in war, but men around the world in general, like we're not like as vulnerable. We don't talk our
yeah.
emotions out, and then
Mm-hmm.
that can get us to a point where it's like, you know, have those thoughts.
Yeah, where you break. I mean, most men, I mean, the suicide rates is male. It's actually white males first, and then it's just males in general. But so it's like, I was a part of this actual thing in DC. It was the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. They had this thing in DC where I was a part of on a panel, and they were talking about suicide amongst veterans and stuff. But, to be on this side of the spectrum of life after having a gun in my mouth, right? It gives me a whole different outlook of myself and my life. You know what I mean? Like, so with guys not being vulnerable, it's only because we don't know how severe the damage truly is. You know what I'm saying? Like we're in denial. Like I was still hanging out, going out, talking to girls, drinking, smoking, whatever, right? I was doing my thing. And yet I was so broken inside and nobody really knew it because we, as men, we mask it, number one, because we don't want to be seen as weak, right? And then the second thing is that we, the moment we let ourselves down, right? The moment we don't know who we are, we don't see our value. That's when we start questioning ourselves. And then it's like, well, I have no purpose. I have no reason to live, So we get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I mean I think therapy is important for people that deal with like those issues like PTSD, anxiety,
Yeah.
but I feel like having a brotherhood and a family unit is like also important for men.
Yeah. It's true. I've changed a lot in my life as a 34-year-old guy. Like I think when I was 27, 26, I was around a lot of people and I did have my groups of like guys, right? And then I guess as you shift through life, right? You get your baby, you get your wife or whatever, and like, your homeboys turn into your baby and your wife, and your homeboys that were your homeboys turn into like friends you talk to every once in a while. And it doesn't have to be like that. There's a lot of guys who are intentional about hanging out and stuff. But what I found with therapy is that you're actually more vulnerable with that therapist than you could be with your homeboy or your friends because there's still the cultural barrier that we have in the comfort of our homes. Even like when your parent tells you, you could tell me anything, and you tell them, and they can't handle it, but they told you to tell them. The conversation is going to change, the relationship changes, but a therapist, you
Yeah.
know, it's a therapist. But yes, I recommend for a lot of people, it doesn't matter if you've been through a traumatic experience or not. If you've had doubt, anxiety, fear ruling your life, I think you should definitely talk to a therapist.
Yeah. Because there's this whole thing online of some people say like I agree to an extent because I
Hmm.
feel like some people use the depression and anxiety thing as like a crutch when they're not really like a lot of it's coming from this thing
Hmm.
and overconsumption. But then there's people who actually have like trauma, childhood trauma from relationships, like going through war. I feel like
Yeah.
those people, yeah, like, and honestly, everybody has childhood trauma. So yeah, therapy is probably needed for everybody.
It is, man. Think about it. I mean, because you could go from the point of like, okay, well, that person needs it. Well, that person, they may not need it. Maybe they're just feeling like because of social media and perception that they don't have any value and that makes them sad and depressed. And then bam, that depression is not the same as this dude who just got blown up and now he's depressed, right? I think it's the same. I think it's because, I stood in a room after a friend of mine in the Marine Corps attempted suicide because he was getting kicked out, because he was an alcoholic. He had drinking problems and he was getting kicked out of the Marine Corps. So that morning, we're in formation and he's like, I got to go to the restroom. I was like, all right, whatever. Goes to the restroom, doesn't come back. Everybody's like, where is he? I was like, go check. Somebody comes back. Man, his room's locked. Like, what? Room's locked. Knocking on the door, banging on the door. We had a joint bathroom, so you could go through the other bathroom. That door was locked. So we had to kick down the door, and we see this guy on the floor with a thing tied around his neck, and he's tied to the bed, unconscious. And it's like, at that time I was like 23, 22. I was like 23. I was probably no, actually I was like 19, 20 around that time, 20 years old. And I sat in the hospital room with him, and I was in my mind, I was like, dude, what the heck? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like literally, I'm like, I could not understand why or how he could let himself get to that point, right? And the paradigm to that is on the other side, as somebody who um, had childhood trauma, but never thought he needed a therapist when I did. But then also now this other trauma takes me to that place to where I am now challenged with my identity of who I am as a human being. And I tell my wife this. I say when people commit suicide, they're not killing the person, they're killing the person that they are who they don't know. It's like, who am I? They don't know who they are. So this person that used to exist wants to exist, but he can't, so they kill themselves. It's like psychology, this. But anyway, but yeah, I that was mental health is really big for me though, because there's a lot of people hurting out here, man. Like people you stand next to, people you see at school or you used to see at school, they're hurting, and it takes people who are like, you know what, life is real, right? Like life is challenging, and I could be there for other people in different ways, just by being an ear. So that's what I'm all about now.
Yeah.
So
Just being a good person.
yeah, man, I'm trying. It's hard to love people.
Yeah, you
It's
gotta
hard to
learn.
love people.
It's for me as well. Like I try to learn. Like I'm still learning. Like empathy. Like
Yeah,
you'll meet people that are not the best to get along with, but you just gotta empathize and be like, okay, he's acting like this because maybe you gotta give him the benefit of the doubt. Like,
hmm, yeah,
um, I did want to get into like your after when you started at UNCC in engineering.
yeah,
Um, so why did you decide to start going to school again? And
yeah.
did you ever have like self-doubt, like I'm not smart enough for this, or like I'm too old, or like something like that?
Oh, all of that, dog. Because what, so after the Marine Corps, I go to Old Dominion University, which was, well, actually was like the second college because I went to school while in Baghdad. I was virtual at University of Phoenix. So I took a couple of courses. And then, so I went to Old Dominion University, tried electrical engineering, went into C programming, trashed it because that was my first time ever. I talk about coding. I didn't even know what that was about. Like, so I'm in C programming, don't even understand what this is about. Um, and culture shock, right? I'm in calculus, culture shock, getting whooped. My first time back in college, these are the classes I had to take my first time back, bro. And I'm telling you, know how those classes, they whooped me, bro. And so I found myself battling PTSD, battling memory issues, having terrible problems. I can't focus, I can't retain anything, so I dropped out of school, right? So that was in like 2013. Now I went to UNC Charlotte in 2016, right? So this is 3 years after trying college. In between that 3 years, I was talking to my wife, and she would always hear me talk about, well, at the time she was my girlfriend, and we got married in 2016, right before I went back to college. And she would tell me, she was like, Alan, you always beat yourself up. Like you've been talking about what if I went to college? All my friends then graduated college, right? Like I can't, those were things that I was manifesting from my mouth every time I was talking about school. And she was like, you should just go back. You have the benefits. The VA is going to pay for it. Like, go ahead and go back. So I was like, you know what, bet, because I'll graduate at, 32, cool. I guess that's going to be my story. I graduated at 32. And I was so mad about that. Um, and school was very difficult for me. My first semester, my first year back, academic probation, you 2.0 GPA. Um, and then I got on the rebound program at UNC Charlotte. And the rebound program is pretty much like the last stop before you get put out of school. They try to teach you things like setting up a schedule, studying tips, um, coursework tips, and all that stuff. So it was actually something I needed, and it was crazy. The day I was in that class, one day I walked outside and like life hit me, and I was like, man, I could either give up again, like I've done so many times in my life. I could quit right now and just drop out of school and say I gave it a shot. School's not for me. Um, or I could never stop, never quit, repeat. Literally, it came to me like that, bro. Like literally, these words came to me like that when I was on UNC Charlotte campus. And so I didn't even know what I was going to do with that. But I was like, oh, yeah, never stop, never quit, repeat. I wrote that down, right? Put it on my little notepad and carried on. And I decided that day that I'll never wonder what if
Mm.
ever again. You feel me? And that became, I've been living that way for since 2016, bro. I've been living this way my whole life. Everything that I do, I'm doing it because I said I want to do it and I put my mind to it, right? But anyway, so with school, it was very difficult for me. Ali could attest to it. You were around when we were doing some studying and stuff too, like, it was real. So the most amazing part now though, because I'm doing what IT, I'm doing software support at IBM. I've been doing this for 2.5 years since 2020, which when we finished up college. And so January 2021 was my first, time working out of college at IBM. So yeah, I had to push through it, but I mean, it was worth it, bro. Like I wish I could kind of go back through my bachelor's degree and use my mindset that I have right now
Mm.
in college because it'd be different. The results would be different.
Bro, I think the same way because I was just messing around in college, like
Right.
not taking it serious. But that's crazy because I looked at you and I was like, yo, this guy has his stuff together. Like he's probably a brilliant student.
Yeah, nah, bro. I was out there struggling. I mean, like, it was. Well, I wasn't struggling in every class. Now, like, I pushed myself. I was studying. I mean, I passed, right? Like, I'm here, right? So, but it was just a matter of why I was struggling. I didn't know the power inside of research. Like, don't just take a class, research and understand what that class is trying to tell you. And once you have an understanding of what it's trying to tell you, then you'll understand why you're learning certain things. And once you learn that, when you take a test, the answers aren't a test. It's a quiz. The quiz you on your knowledge. You know what I mean? So it changes the formality of or your approach to the test. And like right now, oh, are we there? I'm still here. Okay.
Yeah.
My for some reason my phone just kind of did something. All right, but yeah. So school was tough, but yeah, I pushed through and I came up with this mantra: never stop, never quit, repeat. In that moment.
I asked that because I struggle with like self doubt
Yeah,
in myself.
definitely.
I'm too dumb to like figure this out,
Yeah,
to just quit. And I've dealt with that my whole life. Probably it's really bad. Like, and I've
mm,
realized like to the point the last couple years where I'm like, you know what, it's only me versus me. Like if I tell myself that,
exactly,
it's gonna be the result. Yeah.
exactly, bro. It's me versus me. Like at the end of your life, at the end of your life, it is the end of your life. It's not the end of my life. It's not the end of their life. It's the end of your life, right? And as a human being, I've had since COVID. COVID really challenged me to look at life in a different perspective, as it probably did a lot of people, right? But I remember one day I was feeling down and depressed, and I had this little flash fast forward thing happened where I saw my 199-year-old self in the grave, dead, nothing but bones. And he told me, you don't have time. You don't have time to feel that way. You don't have time. The reality is that if you want to live life, then you have to persevere through whatever comes your way. And you have to go into it with the mindset of there's the other side. You know what I'm saying? Like now when I go through stuff, when IBM you know, told us that they were doing a redeployment, aka layoff, in November, I was just about to sign for my home on that Friday, and I was told on Wednesday that I was going to need to find another job. Right, Wednesday, November, last year, I was told I needed to find another job, and I had some time, but they couldn't tell me how much time I had. So you go from that, and I'm telling you, bro, people at the job they were losing their minds. People was behaving as if they were losing their jobs, right? They showed up to work, they didn't put in all of their best efforts, right? But me on the other hand, I said, since this is my mantra, right? Since I know that I can't quit, I can't give up, that at this very moment in time, how do I want to be? And I told myself, I want to be the person that people see me still doing my job and I'm actually stepping up, right? I'm stepping up. That's why I went to Costa Rica. I went to Costa Rica for 2 weeks for IBM to go train new hires, the people that are taking my job. Yeah, I went out there for 2 weeks. I took my wife and my daughter with me, right? And they were there for 2 weeks with me, right? So in the midst of my storm, in the midst of the layoffs, right, or the could potential layoffs, I did that. I got a customer service award at Stevie Awards is outside of IBM that my managers put me up for. And then I land the job with the sales team that I start June 26th at IBM, to be technical sales. So like I say that because I want people who are listening to think, well, if I live a life of perseverance and I never stop and I never quit and I repeat that process over and over again, no matter what comes my way, I can get through it and I will get through it.
Yeah.
That changes the game, bro. It changes the game. It changes the game.
The saying in Islam that the state of the believer is that if something good happens to him, he's grateful and content.
Mm-hmm.
Something bad happens to him, he's still content, but he's patient.
Mm. I like that. You need to put that on a quote. Put that on a quote or something. I like that. I had whenever I talk to people about Islam and Christianity and just religion in general, I always think back to me and Ali's. We had like a breakfast outing in between classes or something, and I was like, right, let's go. Let's go lunch. At that time, I was like a Bible thumping Christian guy, right? Like at this time, I was out there planting a ministry. I was all like, on fire for God. One of those Christians. Um, And so with Ali, we went there and we're having a conversation, and my first the ignorance because I didn't understand. I'm like, oh, I have the military side of understanding Islam or whatever, right? And the American side of understanding Islam. And as a black guy, I didn't know a lot. Like there are black Muslims out there, right? But as a guy from Somerville, South Carolina, nobody was talking like that around it, right? So Ali like really brought number one, Muslim and not Muslim, right? Like it was like it changed the way even when people say it now, I'm like, no, it's Muslim, not Muslim, right? It's very derogatory, in a sense. But yeah, talking to him also just gave me a whole perspective of understanding faith as a human being. Ali grew up and you grew up in your environment where your family has their faith and what they believe. I grew up in my grandma's house where my grandma believed in the good old Lord, and they talk like that, and I grew up in that environment And at this point where I am now, I'm not the same guy that Ali sat with. I'm not that guy anymore. I do have a faith. I do believe in my life experiences and my encounters with God. But I've also been in this journey, and I know I'm just segueing into a whole conversation about religion. But I just journeyed into this place where of asking for understanding, seeking to understand. Like I don't want to just be a guy that says, "Oh, I'm a Christian." And I never really read
Yes.
the text and researched the text and understood the history of the religion. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be that guy. So I got a Hebrew Tanakh Bible here. Like I got that and just different studies that I've been doing as a person because you can't just persevere at your job. You also have to strive spiritually in your own way. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say what I'm saying is because when people know me, some people knew the churchy Allen. And then when your viewers look at me, they say, well, who's this guy? Is patriotic or, oh, he wasn't patriotic. Oh, well, oh, he's a Christian. Oh, he's this kind of person now. I think that we should open the doors for conversation and dialogue to allow people to share who they are and where they're from.
Yeah, and that's crazy because when I met you, or when I was in that time of college, I was only a Muslim by
Hmm.
I was not practicing at all.
You
I
said you said you was by what? By name?
by name I was just a born Muslim. I was not practicing. I didn't
Yeah.
understand the faith. I just
Mm,
believed God because that's what my family is from, and
right.
I had to go on my own journey when I wanted to know the truth. And that's what
Hmm.
I encourage everyone is, if you're sincerely looking for the truth, I 100% believe you'll find it if you're sincerely looking. And you can go read the Bible, Torah, Quran, all these books, all you can research all these faiths. I
Hmm.
100% believe if you're sincerely looking, you'll find the truth.
I believe that too, bro. Like honestly, it's like, and I know a lot of Christians out there who are very like, "Whoa, if it ain't the way of the Lord, it's not the right way," and they believe that. I used to actually be that kind of person too, right? Like, oh, everybody who doesn't believe in Jesus is going to hell, and I used to be that way just based on the environment that I grew up in and how I was, right? But at this point, at 34. I feel so grateful for my life experiences and my ability to pull myself out of my experiences and to reflect on life. So I have friends who are atheists, who are Muslim, who are Christian, who are Buddhist. I have friends in all places. And I love the fact that you said, like if you go seek, like it says seeking you will find pretty much, right? Um, I've been like researching on history a lot too, just with how people overlap. Let me just say this real quick. So these girls were these Moorish, or they were what are not Moorish, but dang, what's those people who Mormons? It was Mormon girls, right? So I was at the park with my family yesterday, and these Mormon girls walked up, and they were like, "Oh, blessed brother, how are you?" And they started talking to me. Do you know the Lord Jesus Christ? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, yeah. And I sent my wife to the car because she doesn't really like conversations about religion. And well, she loves him, but she doesn't think people are ready to hear what she got to say. So
Yes.
so they were talking to me, and I was talking to them about the Bible, and I was like, you believe in the Bible, right? They're like, yeah. I was like, so it's the Old Testament, right? And I was like, so the Old Testament, the Torah, right? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, well, who was Cain afraid of after he killed Abel? In the Bible, it talks about Cain killed Abel, right? Um, so it says that Cain killed his brother Abel. And when God was expelling him from the land, Cain was afraid and he said, well, there's people going to kill me. He said, they're going to kill me. So I asked these women, I said, who was he talking about? Because according to what and how the churches and you guys preach the gospel, um, Adam was the first and only person before Eve, right? That's according to the biblical stuff. That's how it goes. But I've been reading that same word, bro, And I had to sit there and I said, wait a second. There's a verse that says in the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God, blah, blah, blah. And then there it goes. It says God created man and woman in his image and likeness. In the image and likeness of God, he created man and woman. And then it says God took man from the earth. And then it took Eve from his womb. But when people fast forward, they go past the people that God made in his image and likeness, these people that he created, and then it also says that he took and formed Adam. Now Adam was his his people, right? So he had his chosen people, his people, and then he had humans, people. These are the people that in the Bible it talks about. I don't know if y'all have it in the Quran. It talks about in the Old Testament, the Torah, I guess, when it says the sons of God came to the daughters of man and they created children, and they were the Nephilims, the giants. It was saying something about the fallen angels or the sons of God having sex with human women. It says that in Genesis 5. Go read it. Go check it out. But it says that there, but a lot of people don't read the text and they don't ask questions. Anyway, I say all that to say that I was challenging these girls who came up to me about their faith to give me their faith. I said, well, how much do you really know your faith? Like, because do you read it the way that I'm reading it? But anyway, so yeah, if you're out there seeking, um, number one, you know, first you got to know who you are. I would say that is the biggest thing because let's say, if you don't know who you are and then I try to quote unquote convert you to my ideology, if you don't know who you are, you're going to follow me.
Yeah.
But if you know who you are, you understand your values and your principles, then you know what thing speaks to you, speaks to your spirit.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, man. I didn't mean to run off on a tangent on that.
No, no, I love learning. I've never heard that, but that might be the Christian view. But I
Yeah.
do agree with. I mean, there is the story of Cain and Abel in Islam as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Qabil and Habil.
Okay.
I've never heard the sons of God thing, but uh,
Yeah,
the question thing is very important because
it is.
it's encouraged in Islam to ask questions and be
Mm-hmm.
curious, and that's how you find
Yeah.
the truth. But
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else, forgot. Man.
It's okay. But nah, yeah, I mean, because people. I don't know who watches this and what their background is, but I love talking about, especially when I have an opportunity like this. Like we're both from different backgrounds, right? Like so, we could talk about, oh, how do you turn, $1 into $100, Alan? Well, I could tell you that, but we could really talk about things that are culturally different, so that people could have an understanding of just who I am. I'm not just like, oh, this black guy from the low country, right? This guy has a mindset. He has an ideology. He has a certain understanding of life, and that's what I like to put on the table when we have these kind of conversations.
I, I just remembered.
Yeah.
I had a guest on my podcast, Muslim brother. He's around
Hmm.
my age, African American brother, Abdul Razak. I'll send you that episode. Great episode.
Okay.
So he talks about his friend. His name's Tariq.
Hmm.
This guy is not Muslim, but he has morals that are very similar to a Muslim, his moral compass.
Hmm.
So me and Abdul Razak were, talking about Andrew Tate,
Hmm.
and he was saying, he doesn't really align with his viewpoints because he doesn't agree with his moral compass. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter that he's Muslim by faith, that he calls himself Muslim, but where is his moral compass? So
Right.
I think, we can align with people of other faith just by the morality.
I like that. I like that moral compass. And the thing about the moral compass is your compass dialed the same way mine is, right? Like, can I be around you and spiritually eat while being physically, rejuvenated in a sense? Like, do you make me feel better as a person? Do I leave better? I think that's a big thing. We all hang out with people who are culturally similar, but they may not be good for us, right? Like, I've been around guys that are culturally similar that were holding me back, you know. So I think it's awesome to have a good variety of people in your inner circle who may you know, they may not be like you, but they believe in living life the way you do, you know. I love Muslim principles, and when people actually practice it. I actually was like, I'm talking about like what 2010, 2013, 14. I was on some like, man, I'm about to convert to Islam. Like I think I just wanted to do it because of the fact that a lot of the people that I knew that practiced the faith actually practiced the faith. You know what I mean? I heard this one remarkable thing where this guy he mentioned that um he knows the Quran uh from front to back, like the whole thing. And I was like, God dang, that's dedication. But yeah,
Yeah, but
but yeah,
that's
man.
it's also like because it said that our prophet, peace be upon him, Muhammad, his wife says that he was a walking Quran. So
Mm,
there's this whole thing
mm,
of people think that like, okay, I'm gonna memorize the book and but I'm not gonna really dive into the meaning. Because when the
yeah.
book was brought, the revelations were brought down uh, at certain times, they
Mm-hmm.
sat with one chapter or a couple verses for months at a time to really digest.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the whole point of reading the Quran is not only to memorize it, but I mean, not that's not obligatory to memorize it. It's encouraged,
Right.
but the whole point is to improve your character.
Mm-hmm.
There's people out there who memorize it, but their character is very flawed and
Mm,
they don't work on
yeah. Mm. And that's big, bro. And that was a big thing in like Christianity that I didn't want to be a part of in a sense of like the overall network of it. Um, because biblically it talks about God says, you know, you're either hot or you're cold. Like you either love me or you don't. And he said there's no lukewarm, there's no middle, like, oh God, I love you, but you know, your commands it's so hard, right? But in Christianity, there's all of this push on Jesus and his grace stuff that people forget about the law, right? Um, and I've been telling a lot of Christians lately because they've been like, oh, you know, I love the Lord Jesus. And I'm like, but you know, there's scripture that says that if you love me, you will keep my commands. It's like, so what does that say? You know, because a lot of Christianity is all about, oh, Jeremiah 29:11, the word says this, God says this, right? And they're like you were just saying, like they know the word, but the word isn't manifesting in their hearts. You see what I'm saying? So I'm in a place right now where I am not identifying you know, with religious groups or organizations. I do have my life experiences, right? But I do believe that I'm seeking. I'm seeking truth. You know what I mean? And like when you seek truth, you have to analyze everything that you have deemed as truthful.
it.
And that's the only way to seek truth, right? You know, you can't seek truth and be like, oh, I'll lie to myself about, you know, my beliefs, you know, everything's okay there. No, like, why do you believe what you believe? What is the history of what you believe? And how were people practicing it before you got here, right? Like, I'm looking at all of that. But yeah, anyhow, so that's the we just got for all the religious buffers out there. Hope we just gave y'all some medicine for your soul. But yeah, on to other things though. What do you want to talk about next?
Last thing I'm gonna end on because we got like a few minutes. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm asking every guest this, and it kind of goes with your podcast name, The Purpose Pod.
Mm-hmm.
What is your why?
My why. I think it changes every day. But my why is literally for myself. I am my why, you know? Like I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this to prove to myself that I can, that I'm worth it, that I'm smart enough, that I'm good enough, right? Like that's my why. And I think having that why, I can now make other people a part of that why. You know what I mean? Like I used to be one of those guys. I mean, if you would have asked me that question, and I would have been like, man, it's for the people. I'm out here because I want to make people inspired and show them their purpose. No, I want to inspire myself. I want people to be inspired. Like my homeboy told me the other day, he's like, "Man, we came up with the shirt ideas around the same time, but I've been sitting on mine, and you just really took off with yours." I said, "Well, yeah, because my why. I am my why. If I said that, yo, this is dope, it's gonna be a good thing." So yeah, I am my why first, and then other people, you guys out there who are, struggling to be resilient. I want to motivate and inspire people to persevere through the trauma, through the hurt, through the pain.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Another question. Um, I thought that I thought you were gonna go longer,
Oh,
but
I can't. No, I didn't. I don't want to talk. I talk a lot, bro. So
yeah,
like, I'm trying to, I'm trying to weigh it out. I want you to be like, man, this dude came on. This was
I was
yapping. But I would say this, bro, because like in life, people are important. But it's like when I was saying, like when you die, right? So for me, the way I perceive life right now is that you could have love for me, you could want the best for me, but you're not going to want it the same way I can for myself,
yeah,
right? Like in the morning, when you wake up tomorrow morning, I can tell you right now to be your best self, right? To inspire you, right? And then when you wake up in the morning, life punches you in the jaw, and you're like, oh man, again, I gotta, like if you wake up with that mindset, it doesn't matter what I told you, you're already beating yourself, right? But if you wake up tomorrow and you say, I'm about to change the game. I'm going to post 10 videos. I'm going to message 10 people and tell them to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to do this, right? And when you start it at that point in time, everything becomes possible. Nothing is impossible. So like when it's about inspiring others, I believe that I first must inspire myself and push myself forward. And then my methodology I can then take and say, hey, if you change the way you see yourself, you'll change the way you are. You'll change who you are. So yeah.
no, that's a great answer because like you have a wife and kids,
Yeah.
or kids, sorry.
Yeah, just one. Yeah, the other kid wasn't mine. I'm just I'm just playing.
So you're doing stuff for you're obviously working for them and providing and taking time out of your day to spend with them. But if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to be fit to help them, right?
Exactly. Exactly, bro. Like it's all they're like I got a big family as far as just not even just with my wife and my daughter, but like well, my dad, my mom, my siblings, my uncles, my aunts. Like, I come from a close family back in the day. We're not so close now, but a lot of people are depending on me to change the dynamics of my family, meaning to take us to the next level, to be that person who sacrifices the fun, right? I'm still having a good time, but like I'm not going to the club every night like I used to, like like all of that stuff, right? I'm sacrificing because I want to build something bigger for when my daughter gets to be 34 years old, and I'm then, God willing, 68. You know what I mean? At that time, what do I want to leave? What I want to have here, and that's a better family, right? And that only happens when I better myself, bro. So like I'm in the stocks, I'm in the option trading. I've been teaching self-taught. I've been learning more about technology. I've been applying myself in my job, and I'm doing all of that for myself, and everyone else benefits from that as well.
That's
But
powerful.
yeah, man. Yeah, bro. I mean, with your music, dog, like I think honestly, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just jump in there, but it just made me think about it though, because I know how passionate you are with music and like, and you love it, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're rhyming, when you're in your zone, like that's you, right? That's your zone of brilliance, as my friend Tracy would call it. Like the zone of brilliance is when you do something that it's effortless. It's who you are. You were talking about like you could be the kid, the artsy kid, right? Back when you're in your childhood, back in the day, right? Um, and I just find that so interesting that you do music and like the way you do music. You don't know how many lives you could change in your community with the youth in your community through hip hop and rap. You know what I mean? Like there's education, there's English, teaching English to kids, you know what I mean? Like and just finding different ways to utilize your skills to edify and to feed your community. I mean, like there's so many, bro, you're talented. So I just want you to, I want to encourage you. You're a brilliant minded young man. So like I really hope that like you take, okay, I'm getting back into, vlogging or podcasting. I'm getting back into music. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. Like I want you to be that person, bro, because you have the capacity to do it. Like I think if once you release yourself and you allow yourself to be unapologetically you, you're going to be a beast even more, man. I'm telling you, you're going to kill a game. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So,
I
you
appreciate
know,
it. I did leave the music scene.
yeah,
There's like a 20-minute video I made on my YouTube. Uh,
yeah,
Kind of going into that. I don't want to get into it now, but like
yeah,
yeah, like I just love creating, to be honest. I love making
yeah.
something out of nothing. Uh, and yeah, it used to be self-expression. I mean, it still is a lot of
Hmm.
self-expression, like telling my story. Uh,
Right.
and yeah, that's honestly what my YouTube channel is now. It's kind of like a journey to inspire others because I feel like I'm just the average Joe. Like I'm just
But you're doing me, bro. Your whole intro, the video on the landing, the main video, like, and you're telling a story, and you got the different images and stuff like that, bro. I'm like, I ought to kick you in your leg, bro. Like, okay, you retired, put the mic down. You're not doing that, but I'm just saying you have a natural gift, and that gift doesn't have to manifest on a stage with a microphone. That gift can come through storytelling and you know what I mean. Like, you have a very good narrative voice, like when you're talking and you could if you rhyme and you write out like, okay, I'm a script. Let's say you did this. Let's say you on a side gig of yours would be um storytelling for brown boys, from your community, right? And you tell many stories, like 30-second stories. There was a kid named Tay. He was, whatever, right? But like, you could turn those into audio books, you could turn it into whatever, but like, you have a gift, bro. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like, feed your community through your gift. Like, you could take that gift and plug it into different spaces and you'll be amazed, man. I'm telling you.
Man, I really want to find this. My notes are just like crazy, but like I know you love like spoken word.
Yeah,
Um, Man, I'm trying. Just give me a second. Uh,
you good.
all right, there it is. Yeah, I wrote this spoken word. I was planning to make a video out of it. Probably still will.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll give a sneak peek to the audience. Um,
Okay.
so, I'm fighting the feeling. I'm kind of the villain of my own story. Chase the fame, chase the glory. The kid ain't yours. Thank Maury.
That was me.
But thank God, he gave you everything you wanted, but you act odd. We all got flaws. We all got demons. They come every season. Suddenly you're thinking illogically and without reason. Record label deal, think you make a meal, really they just steal your soul and your will. Spread the message, kill your own people. Now
Mm.
you're famous on the screens, but nobody love you for the real you, not your friends or your own family. See, distraction will take you away from your purpose. Come on, man, you learned this. He says, I don't got the motivation. I just keep procrastinating. All I'm hearing is debating. All I'm hearing is complaining. Everyone got the same 24 hours. What we do with ours. On the social media feed, smoking some weed with some pornography. Simping over girls that don't care about you unless you got the riches. But witness this, the truth. When you act like a man, they come flying out to you.
Mm.
What's a man do? Discipline, self control. Keep the mindset intact. No need to be a follower, no need to be a stan, but you stuck in the matrix, stuck in the plan. They made it for you, but I've made my own. See, I've grown to be known. It didn't come from nothing, came from substance. Never chase fame, never chase glory, never chase women, never start that story.
Hmm.
The butterfly lands where it wants, but when it's chased, it runs. You'll get what's meant for you. You'll get it for certain. Did you want it though? That's for God to determine. He has wisdom. Might take you years to understand the grand plan. Might make you realize that your hardships made you a man.
Hmm.
Maybe you'll never understand. Maybe you'll stay ignorant to the facts, in denial, trying to justify your acts. Trust me when I say keep good company or you'll regret it to the day. They say the most beloved to you are the ones that point out your flaws. Keep emotion out of it and stick to the cause. And one day you'll be on top and be the boss. Then a day will come where you will have lost every single thing in this worldly life. Your money, your family, your health, it's all finite. God will be with you forever, no matter how many times you get stuck in the dark. He's always trying to show you the light.
Hmm. You teaching. He teaching. He teaching. You preaching, teaching.
Yeah.
You see? And you turn that into like a little video, like a little animation video or something, like use your words, bro. Like put it in a book. Like do it, bro. Like, I'm telling you. You haven't written a book yet, right?
No, in the future, definitely.
All
Uh,
right, that's my challenge to you, bro. That's my if you write, just write, man. Just write. It doesn't matter if you stay on stage. Like write. You as a multi-talented person, we have the tendencies to do many things and we could do many things, right? But there's certain things that you shouldn't just move on. You have to sow that seed, I would say. Like so you just having the talent of being able to do music or to be a musician, that's one thing. And you say, oh yeah, I hung the hat up, I don't do that anymore. No, the hat's not hung up. It's still who you are. Like, you can say I put down a microphone, but the microphone's still inside of you. There's something inside of you that tells you, hey, speak up and let others hear what you're saying. You see what I'm saying? Like there's power in that. So write a book,
no, I
you
appreciate
know,
it.
no doubt,
Uh,
bro. And I'm sorry, I go on my motivational thing, so I just get a little
uh,
tied up sometimes.
yeah, one of my friends said like the people that like I asked him like how did he get to where he was? Like he has like really insane confidence and
Yeah,
leadership qualities, and he's so humble. He's like, yeah, it's the people that push me. I was like, yeah, keep going, keep going.
right. Definitely. I got the, I feel like in my lifetime, I've had a lot of people rooting for me. And like, I mean, I've been sleeping on people's couches. I've been broke. Like, talk about spending my last $5 on weeds type stuff. Like, I've been in that place, bro. So like I've come a long way and I'm still going places. My goal right now is to really tap into the stock market and to uh, really get better at option trading and to build a financial legacy in that way. Um, and to really just push myself as a podcaster, as a brand, and just really just everything I do, like I said, bro, like you're never going to see me quit. Like if you see me quit, I'm dead. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? So that's it. Like I may see like there's one thing to quit and there's another thing to be finished, right? When you're finished with something, like how you hang up, with music and stuff, you're like, okay, you didn't quit. I'm done with this. This is not who I am, or whatever your reasons, right? But it's just like you could quit or you could finish, you could complete it. Every time I dropped out of college, I quit. I ran away. I was doing that. But yeah, so like it's something about facing your dreams and allowing yourself to become the person that's trying to live. Like there's something inside of all of us saying, let me live. Like, let me do it.
Yeah,
Like, let me just be that person. You see some Hollywood person or some famous person, and you're like, I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, and if that's the case,
Yeah.
because not everybody has a desire to be in that way, right? And you said it in your video. You was like, I got to be honest. Is it for fame or is it for money? Like,
Mm.
I mean, we all want, consistent money, pretty much, right? We all want that. So, but for those people who are creators, like me and you, we're for the creators. Like we're for people who need to be inspired so that they could start or do whatever it is they're called to do. We got to stay motivated, and we're the ones that's going to go through the worst hell because we're the motive. We motivate the motivators. You
Mm.
know what I mean? So like you're going to go through some dark times, and you've been through some dark times, whatever times you've been through, right?
Yeah.
But know that at 27 right now, bro,
26.
man, 26 at 26, that's an amazing age. And like even with the setbacks, just know that the setbacks are seasonal. The setbacks don't define who you are and who you're going to become. One day you'll be a father and a husband, right? You know what I mean? So like I had to know, and this is something that I had to like. If you were me, at your age, I was you, right? Like I didn't have a kid, I didn't have a wife. You know what I mean? Well, I had a wife, but I didn't have a kid. But at that time, I wish somebody would have said, you know what? Hey, whatever seasons you go through from this point on, it's just a season. Like focus on your dreams, focus on your goals, and become the person that you desire to be. So
Yeah. There's I want to end this soon, but my bad because I got
yeah,
a little
no, you're
bit.
good.
But there's a guy he talks about like I'm not really into trading or stocks and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
concept or something called dollar cost average. Um,
Dollar cost average.
I could be butchering it, but he says like you put a little bit in uh, every day and it adds up.
Oh yeah.
And he said that kind of relates to life. Like, okay, do 10 push-ups every day. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
add up. You read 10 pages of a book every day. It's gonna add up. So
That's true.
look at
I'm
stuff.
doing that with a book I got now. And I got a book called Shoe Dog from Phil Knight, the Nike guy. I've been doing that, like 10 pages or 5 pages. But yeah, I know we gotta wrap it up. But yeah, man. So
No, I enjoyed it. I want to have you on again.
yeah, bro.
Um,
I appreciate it, man.
yeah, guys, check
Yeah,
out
man.
Alan on
Yeah,
Instagram, YouTube. I'll link his stuff in the description. And yeah, comment if you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, man, Harry Man talks. And appreciate you for coming on, Alan.
no doubt, bro.